Good day, folks. This is Greg Judy at Green Pastures Farm. Today, we're doing a paddock mover, actually starting earlier in the morning. It's getting so hot. The cows move a little better when it's cooler, so we're out here 6:30 this morning. Normally we move them at 7:30 in the morning, but the heat, they just don't move as good. And now they're moving fine. It's cool out here, and they've got some really good forage to go into this morning. Darn stuff is tall. The Timothy's is the last one to come out. It's all seeded out, as you can see. And there is this is where we actually broadcasted all that cereal rye on that cocklebur field last year, where the cows beat up the cockleburs. And we came in behind them and put the cereal rye down. They are really plump. The cattle and the calves are filled out good. We're getting some pink eye in the baby calves, and even a few of the cows have watery eyes. And we went back to putting the salt, the sea salt. We're putting a tea bag of that in that water tank. It's a 400-gallon tank, and of course there's tons of water going in there constantly with them drinking. So we're putting a 50-pound bag of salt in the morning and one at night. And there's probably, gosh, I'd hate to guess, probably 20,000 gallons of water going through that tank. It's coming out of that pond. But when it's hot like this, they drink a lot of water. We're just trying to get more salt in them. And it does have a mineral mix with the salt. So we're just pulling out all stops, trying to get the eyes to stop watering as much. And yeah, we put out some kelp. We've got some kelp and C90 actually mixed together over there, and we put them separate at first, and we were getting consumption on the C90, but they wouldn't even touch the kelp. So we mixed the C90 in with the kelp. That's what another grazer's doing, and he has trouble with his cows eating too much kelp. Our cows won't touch it. But now if the C90 in there, they're starting to eat a little bit of it. But I put out 100 pounds, and it's been out, my gosh, it's been out 3 days now, 4 days. And I can't tell hardly. There's a calf licking a little bit of it. They just, I don't know. It's something new to them, and they're not real crazy about it. We grazed this thing. It's been about 35 days. And it's completely recovered, as you can see. This is where they were at yesterday. I mean, it's unbelievable how much moisture's out here in the form of dew. I mean, look at my pant legs. They're soaked. And I only walked 20 feet from that four-wheeler after I pulled the mineral in. We've got a tricky cow out here. She's a half South Pole. She's black. And we moved them into this paddock right here a couple days ago. She'd had a calf, and we made sure it moved with her, and she's just one of those secretive ones. She's got it hid out here somewhere. And this morning we came out here early, and the cow was down in here by itself, and the rest of the mob was up there on the hill. So we know she's got it. teats are pretty tight this morning, but last night the back two weren't. So she's suckling it, but she doesn't want us to know where it's at. She's keeping it hid. That can be a bad thing, and it can be a good thing. The good thing is, of course, the calf is not exposed to all the fly pressure that big mob of cattle have on him. So he's out here laying in this tall grass by himself, and he gets to suck whenever she goes over to check on him. I don't know how they do it, but they make them calves kind of stay there, and then they go back to the mob. But that is some seriously thick forage right there. Seriously thick. We've got, I think we're up to about 115, 120 babies now, and just not very many left. I did see one this morning that was kind of swelled up, and we had a new one this morning, so there's just not very many left to calve, which is good. I don't like them calving in June. It's, we're getting toward the middle of June. Today is, I believe it's the 12th. 13th, yep. And so yeah, it's starting to get warm out here. I don't know what day it is. Tomorrow's my birthday. Flag Day, everybody. I remember people would ask me, and we'd get the questions in history of what day's Flag Day on. I always knew what day Flag Day was on because that was my birthday. But yeah, the cows have kind of settled in now. Some of the calves are still bawling. It is tall. Even though it hasn't rained for 2 weeks now, and it's been in the 90s, and my pants, look at that, they're just soaked all the way down to my boots. So I was following the cows with the clipping of the pastures, and 5 days ago I quit. It just hasn't rained, and so when it doesn't rain, you're a little bit skeptical of going in and clipping anything, because this could be the start of a dry period for us. I'm not going to say it's a drought, because we're not in a drought, but I feel for those folks that are. There's a lot of people under a lot of stress right now, and their pastures and farms are under stress. They just haven't had any rain. And so I'm very thankful that we've caught our spring rain and we have this kind of forage. Otherwise, we'd be looking at, probably maybe destocking a little bit. But you can see up on the hill where I clipped, way up yonder, I've stopped. I'm not going to clip anymore. We've got to get rain. And when I see what I clipped starting to regrow and it's doing well, now the clover is regrowing, but the grasses are a little bit slower. And I'd rather have tall grass like this in a drought than have it, go in here and clip it off and then take all that canopy off, and then your sun is going to dry your soil out a lot more. So this is what they're on. And of course, this is a lane that they use to get to the next paddock. So this isn't a fair representative here. I'll show you. We'll go out here in the paddock. So this paddock that I'm taking you to right here, this is what it's a carbon copy of what they're grazing today. So this is what we're leaving behind. You see, we got pretty good ground cover out here. This doesn't need to be clipped. I mean, there isn't a handful of seed heads on this paddock. Well, I shouldn't say a handful, there's not very many. And because this pasture got clipped last year with the brush hog, there's not too many sprouts. Thorn sprouts, here's one. But, when you can count them, that's nothing. And he kind of got chewed on. Look at that. There's not a lot of leaves left on that poor little tree. He got nailed by cows. So I'm pretty happy about that. They did a really good job here. But you know, with the calves and everything in here, there's close to 400 head here. We got 2 paddocks. We split it down the middle in 2 and gave them about 5 acres each move. But it was a ton of forage in here. And yeah, somebody made the comment the other day. He said, well, it kind of it's hard on me to look at those cows walking into that tall grass and trampling that stuff on the ground. You're wasting it. And I just smiled to myself. I'm like, yep, that's what I used to think too. I'm wasting it. But folks, you're not wasting it when the cows do this. You absolutely are not. This pasture is going to grow back without a rain. Now, it may not come back as lush as it would if it had, let's say, a 1-inch rain in the next, I don't know, next 10 days. But it will grow back. And that's because we trampled some of this on the ground. We got a good soil armor. We call it a soil armor on the ground. And we're pretty happy with the way it looks. Not a lot of weeds. I mean, you just don't see hardly any weeds out here. This is a native that grows out here. It's buckbrush. The cattle don't eat it. The sheep will eat that in the wintertime. It puts on a red berry. And you got it. I mean, it's here. And you just don't want buckbrush taking over. But it's there. Birds will put little nests in there because it's kind of a thick bush. And a small meadow, you know, something, a little field bird will put a nest in those a lot of times. Yeah, I'm just wondering where that black cow's calf is. My gosh, they could be laying anywhere out here. They're usually laying in that tall grass right on the other side of that fence. But now I haven't walked this line yet, but I don't know, she was separated this morning. It's the first time we've seen her away from the herd, which is that's a good sign. She's either going to suckle it or she'd already been. But her teats are pretty tight, so it makes me think we interrupted her feeding behavior. So we're gonna leave the gate open to this paddock and the one there on up to by those metal bins. They're not gonna go back to there. There's nothing there. But if that little calf's laying out underneath one of these trees or in this tall grass and we close this gate, he's gonna go all day without sucking. So don't do that. Ouch. There's a multifurous bush that said hello to me. That's a fairly good sized cow, folks, and you can hardly, I mean, you can see her, but there is a ton of feed in there. So tonight, that's that paddock, there's about 12 acres. We gave them half of it. They're on about 6 acres. Tonight they get the other 6. There's a few trees in there. There's not a bunch, but there's a few. And that's the beautiful thing about these red-hided animals is they don't need as much shade. They can take the heat a whole lot better than a black one can. They did a test one day where the ambient temperature, I believe it was 104 degrees. And they put a surface thermometer, they taped it on the black cow, and they taped one on a red cow. They went out there at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon and read those thermometers. And the red cow, and that was 104 normal temperature. The red cow was like 109. The black cow was 139. So, 30 degrees hotter. That's a lot of heat. You go put a black coat on, stand out there in a 105-degree day and see how you feel. You're going to be hot. You're going to be hot with a red one on, but you put a black coat on, it really absorbs heat. Really absorbs heat. So if you're in an area where there's a lot of heat and your cattle are stressed, it would make sense. It would make sense for you to go ahead and at least pick the color. That was one of the main reasons I went with South Pole at the very start, because we had black cattle and they weren't doing very good. And I didn't have a lot of shade in some of my paddocks. I'm like, man, this is terrible. And then I went with red from a suggestion from an old cattle friend, and I've never looked back. Well, that cow there's got a nice build to her. She's got a big old mouthful of clover and grass there. She's just doing 100. Tree swallows are out booking around this morning. Oh, there's one. Oh, what kind of bird this is on top of this. Boy, he's got a pretty song. See if I can get closer to him. I'm not sure what that is. Oh, there it goes. It's a little grass. It's not a normal English sparrow. It's a field meadow sparrow-like thing. It had a yellowish breast. Pretty song. I like listening to the birds sing. It's just another thing that, you know, it's nature. That's what we're dealing with here is nature. A lot of people fight nature, and you know, again, it's a whole lot better to live in sync with nature than it is to fight it. That's what all those little trees out there, those are honey locust trees. The landlord's letting me save those, and they're getting bigger now. There's going to be some shade, and today those cattle could use some shade if it's there. That's the only shade they're going to have is those small trees out there. So it won't be too long. This one here wasn't here when I leased the farm, and now look at the shade it's thrown out. I mean, another 2 or 3 years, there'll be 25, 30 head can get underneath there. So, and it is a honey locust, I know. But that's what wants to grow out here. That's what we're going to grow. And we've planted some trees, and but nature plants a lot of them for us, and that's the ones that seem to do the best, are the ones that nature puts there. So I'm going to use that as a tool to get the animals comfortable. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off this morning. The cattle are doing well on this big paddock. And those y'all new to our website, our channel, go to our website, greenpasturesfarm.net. You can check out the new book that I got. It's Greg Judy, How to Think Like a Grazer. It's now available on our website. And hit that subscribe button on the way out, and we'll see y'all down the road next time.